Okay, I think it works now. So my computer just crashed and I had to restart it laboriously. So as you can also see, today I reported that ludicrous incident with my neighbors to the police, and since then I've been just perped out. So in the first recording, when I first started measuring chips, the doorbell rang, and I didn't react immediately because I suspected it's nonsense. But when I actually went to go and answer the door, I just realized that it was just one of the perps, and just the person just walked away, you know, as I was coming out. So that's typical. So they disrupt your work, and then you react. You think, oh, maybe it's something important, and then your work is being disrupted. And then the second time, you know, they already had the doorbell, so I continued scanning, and then they freeze your computer. So you can just see that the people who are in your neighborhood, walking distance, are also interfaced with the people who are attacking your computer to just generate a non-stop disruption of your life. So also, I mean, now you saw the chips on the back of my head. There are also chips here, and they really hurt me with them. And if you just remember where all the chips were, so you can also see the pattern of this Nazi program. So by the way, I have absolutely no recollection of ever being implanted. You just wake up with them. So you either wake up and you notice a scar, or like I did, you know, you just feel kind of, you don't really know what's going on. And at some point you actually look down. That was when I saw my navel, and then you think, oh my God, there's a surgical scar. There's a line, like an actual surgical scar healing on your navel. That's when I discovered it. That was in the evening. That alarm is my Geiger counter. That's another thing that's happening. I'm being shot at with fairly high radiation. I didn't really notice before. So normal here is about 0.1, 0.2 microsievert, and what I started measuring is something like 85, 78. And it's what's strange is it can't be just environment, because the numbers are almost always identical. So it's 78, 86, 78, 86, 180 microsievert. That gets punched into my home. So it's roughly thereabouts, and it always seems to be set numbers that come up over and over. So I think it's an external source that is just punching, you know, it's punching radioactivity into my body that's 140 times more than the environmental. So I suspect it's some sort of particle beam that's showering around me, you know. So, but just to recap, so I've got chips on my head, and what you have to know is that all the victims are implanted virtually the same way. So you will have a chip on the back of your head, on the top, on the sides, here on the forehead as well, and I can feel them. They can cause horrific migraines turning these on. You feel like for hours your entire forehead is under current. It doesn't feel like a migraine, it feels like some electronics has been turned on, and then suddenly the pain just radiates in until you literally feel like you're gonna be sick. And I never had before migraines where I never had migraines like that, you know, and I never had migraines where I actually had to throw up, you know, or something like that. But with this electronics, they can make you feel literally sick. And over Christmas, I traveled back to Germany to my family, and over Christmas, German intelligence was brutal. They are the original Nazis, right? So they are the original Gestapo, but they turned on the chips, and literally it felt like my entire head was being irradiated. It also, at the same time, you feel like there's some really high pitch screech, but my entire head felt like it's being cooked alive. An absolutely insane sensation I never had before, and I fled into the cellar, but it just didn't change. And that's why I think they actually used the chips instead of radiation, because in the cellar I was trying to shield myself, but nothing helped, and they just cranked it up until I literally had to run upstairs, and I was sick 4 times in a row. And the way they did that is that they just increased the pain until I just threw up. Then they took it back down. I thought, okay, that's it. I crawled back down into the cellar, still testing if I feel better. And then after a few minutes, you could literally feel like current through your head, and they just cranked it up again, so that I had to go upstairs, 4 times in a row to throw up. That's the reality, people. So these sort of implants that are put into you when you're asleep, they are not to enhance you. They are to murder you, to mutilate you, and to just horrifically torture you from a distance. And once you have these implants, just like your mobile phone chip, it's actually very small. You know, the chip in your mobile phone, that can just be bought. That's not military technology. You know, every teenager can buy a mobile phone. But the stuff that's actually in you is just as connected, remote controllable as your mobile phone. So you can send messages, you can program these chips, you can remote control it. And the whole idea is to remote control a human being and to torture a woman, from your mobile phone or from your iPad. And judging by the people who have stalked me, and I could see just arousal in their face, in Oxford, in Munich, here in Zurich, and everywhere I went, the vast majority of the really ostentatious, so there was a lot of young people, but the people with actual excitement in their face, that was mostly older men. So literally you are talking 40s, late 40s, 50s and 60s. So personally I feel that's dirty old fart industries. And from the other female victims I'm talking to, they seem to say, well, you know what, they sometimes know their stalkers, and it seems to be rich older men who, and also people with connections to military intelligence and to the military or government or these sort of stuff, these sort of institutions. And they seem to be, I would almost guess they pick women they fancy or something like that, and they let military intel or just the sprawling security complex, associated with the intelligence agencies, just break into the home, anesthetize the person, chip them, and then through a mobile phone, some dirty old wanker can just control your chips. I think that's the reality, people, and it's a business. So that what you see is human trafficking. I'm a human trafficking victim, and recently in the news was one human trafficking victim who was prostituted, and she ended up in a hospital, and she said that she's chipped, and then they didn't believe her at first, and eventually I think doctors found a little chip in her arm. But the chip that was shown, that's the old type of chip, okay, the one which is kind of transparent and you can see a little coil in it. That's shown very often in the press because it's old technology, okay, it's declassified, they can just band it around. But she was a human trafficking victim. She was being used as a prostitute, and what I'm saying is that's exactly what happened to me. Okay, that is what I'm being used for as well. Oops, I'm just seeing that. Are they about? Is this just my battery going flat? Just a second. Yes, it is. But this was actually genuinely now my mistake. It's not being pumped. That's the battery. But what's happening is what you're seeing with these victims who are reporting being victims of the intelligence agencies. The intelligence agencies have the military technology of these chips. They have access to the surveillance equipment to read out the chips through mobile phone networks, through the satellite system. They can interface it with the stalkers. That's the surveillance network. And they have got the tools to hack your computer. So when your chips are being set off, when first of all you wake up and you realize you've got chips like I have, and then your chips are being set off at Christmas to torture you, and you get the surveillance network harassing you, and you get harassment from police officers. I had, for example, the female police officer Elisabeth Sombruch, who was apparently, as according to her own statement, formerly the criminal police in Hamburg, and then she changed to the Munich art department, so the art department of the police. That's art fraud, and then she turned up at a meetup for female entrepreneurs in science and technology, and went through harassment theatre with me. And you think, what's a female police officer from the art department doing at a meetup for entrepreneurs or female entrepreneurs in science and technology? That's total bullshit. But it's like police officers, I don't know who got into the head of this woman that she convinced herself that that's police work. I mean, she wasn't there for private because she didn't want to start a business, so she was just there as a police officer. But I don't know how corrupt the system has to be until the female police officer in the art department thinks that her job is to harass a woman, a young woman who wants to start her own business in science and technology with bullshit. But that's the shit you see, okay? So today also, when I reported this funny incident with my neighbors to the police, what happened is, I already know the spiel, so you go into somewhere to report something or to talk to somebody, and like some wild boar, a few seconds later, somebody else barges in and stands behind you and listens or holds their phone or some nonsense like that. And this time I went into the police station, there was actually somebody already talking to the reception. So I didn't want to kind of invade their privacy. So I just stepped back, I closed the door again, and I was just waiting in the hallway. But that was so not planned, because the next thing I know is that my stalker like barges in like a wild hog, and kind of like looks at me like, totally surprised. If you go into some place and you just see somebody standing there, you just go hello, and then you just move on, you go your way. But this guy just froze and just went, damn, I don't have a plan for this situation, because he couldn't just stop where I was. So he kind of, stopped, didn't say anything, even though he was staring at me, and then he kind of caught himself and went in. Okay, so I go to the police and I report everything, and then when I come out, the same guy, big coincidence, is standing on the pavement, like waiting, and just staring at me. And when he went into the police station, when it was my turn, I went in and he wasn't there, because he'd actually gone behind the till. He was a police officer. But then when I spoke to the other police officer, this guy was gone, I couldn't see him. But then when I spoke to the other police officer, and then I finished and I went back out, this guy was standing outside. He was standing on the pavement, just like that, and waiting for me to come out. And then when I came out, he looked at me so that I noticed, and he started typing something into his mobile phone, and he just waited until I came near, just standing as ostentatiously as possible. And then he kind of got into a car, but that car looked like a workman's car. But he had gone inside the police, behind the till, without problem. So he was one of the police officers working undercover in like a workman's van, and that's another thing. A lot of these people, going around in these workmen, cars, actually freaking police officers, just undercover doing fucking bullshit, frankly, so, because if he was just an undercover police officer supporting me, he doesn't have to do it so ostentatiously. If he weren't like that, I would just walk past him, not recognize it. But they had to make sure, like, we're watching you going and reporting to us, like, okay. So that happens, and then so I photographed him, I filmed him, and literally I thought, you have your mobile phone, I have mine. So I just walked past him and filmed him, and then also after he couldn't barge in, I was speaking to a police officer, and then a few minutes later, 2 other guys barged in and were just behind me. And then after I spoke to the police, I just, went out, and then I went shopping. And as I was in the supermarket walking around, I reached the till and I turned around, and who's behind me? It was the tall guy, foreign looking, who barged in after me into the police reception area. That was actually quite small, so it's a tiny police station with so much traffic, And it just so happens that the first person to barge in after you was waiting for you outside. Then, when he missed his chance to be the one standing behind you as you talk to the police, the second person to barge in, it just happens to be behind you in the queue in the supermarket, after you've been to the police station. Yeah, that's really likely to happen. And then as I was walking back home, there's one car, there's a used car salesman. And as I was walking on the pavement, one of his cars at the back had a 007 sticker. And I thought, oh, maybe people are real big fans of James Bond, although I haven't seen that many, 007 stickers around. And then I just walked past the car and I looked back, and his number plate was also 007. So the number plate on the used car was 007. So I just got out my phone and I photographed it, because that's clearly aimed at me. It's like, yo, stop 007, hey, this is, and even in the red, they used the red color which is my color on the website. And then I went back and I realized that this car had been not parked to the back like all the others, but there was actually a really large gap so that you could see the window in the back with the Stop 007 sticker. Okay, so that's the perping you get if you just go and report to the local police here in Zurich. And then I came home, so I finished my shopping, I came home, I did some stuff, and then now I wanted to record and actually scan the rest of my body, and show you that I really don't have anything stuck to my legs or anything. It is my skin emitting, or my whatever's under my skin or in my tissue. And then the first thing that happens is someone rings the doorbell. No one rang the doorbell the last couple of months, no one. And then somebody rings the doorbell, and then when I do go down, they just see me and walk off. So that's a perp thing. And then I come back, I continue scanning, and then my computer freezes. It hasn't frozen in months, absolute months, if I remember correctly. I had other computer sabotage, but this computer didn't freeze. So anyway, that's the thing. But what you have to realize is that this is being run. This is what I wanted to say is this is human trafficking. Okay, so as far as I can tell, I'm being sex trafficked to a bunch of, I call them dirty old farts. Okay, so sorry if I'm ageist, but when you have a man in his 50s, late 50s, 60s, perping on a woman, 30 years younger than him, I'm sorry, that's weird. Okay, when he's got all the money to buy, access to this kind of like pervy club of old dirty old farts, that's pretty freaking creepy. And then when you wake up with chips, literally they keep cutting you open because these old geriatric degenerates pay them so much for masturbation purposes that it's actually worth the time of the intelligence agencies to use their skill to human traffic people, women in the normal population. Okay, because there's absolutely no reason for me to end up with chips on my head. I was also, as soon as I went on the Richie Allen show, Dr. Robert Duncan immediately said, "Oh, she's in the program. This woman's in the program." So the program is a thing. Even a dude who worked for the CIA immediately recognized what MI5, MI6, and German intel and Swiss intel was doing to me, because there's the program. Okay, and but if you want to do depopulation, or if you want to do science, if you want to map the brain, you might have chips here, but why the hell do you have chips in your belly button? Okay, that is actually, for masturbation, because you just torture a woman in the sensitive parts. So, okay, there are bits where I've got chips where I'm not going to stick an antenna, so I'm just going to tell you, and you just have to take my word on trust. So I've showed you that I've got the chip here, I've got one in the back, here on the sides. I'm not sure if I measured them last time, but they're here on the sides, in the ears, okay? I might also have something in my throat, like a throat microphone or something like that. I'm not sure. Then women get implanted on the side of the breasts and here, okay? So I think they try to put it in the folds, so these little scars, or if you're in a hospital and you've got heart surgery or whatever, they put it in like that. But this is really bad because, your breast tissue is really sensitive, and being irradiated non-stop leads to inflammation and then tumor formation. So these tumors just form. So, this is part of the genocide program. They give you breast cancer, and breast cancer is kind of very, very, very dangerous. But then it goes on. So as I said, I do have chips in my genitals. I do, and they do set them off. Other women also get burned really badly. They have got chips in the rectal area. And imagine how sick somebody has to be to, use their mobile phone to just burn somebody in the rectal area. Melanie Richan, she has got chips on the inside of her thighs, like here and here. And they used to come up to here, but doctors removed some of the implants, but she still has them. So an entire area, she's got implants, a network of implants here. So I have seen literally on her stomach, she showed me there were about a dozen scars. I've got also a chip in my spine, so they set it, when they set it off, you kind of get a jolt like that. And they seem to use it like if you're doing something they don't want you to do, they just like get up and stuff like that. So imagine you've got something on your spine, here on your spine in the neck, and then I'll just show you the areas again where they implant. So you will have chips on the ankles outside or inside, here on the inside, yes. So here I've got a chip here, right? Can you see the joint that's there? So it's roughly there, you know. Here they sometimes implant at the top. You might have them also at the bottom of your feet, actually. And what they do with the chips that they put under the bottom of your feet is that they make your muscles cramp. And then you can sometimes see that your toes sometimes split in an odd way and just cramp up so that your toes split. You know, they love to do that sort of stuff. So suddenly, you know, your toes kind of split like that. It's almost like this sign, you know, and you can't get rid of the cramp because there's a chip running a current through. Okay, so here, then the knees, okay, and again, you might have them on the outside, but I have them here on the inside. You might have them here in the back of the knees and also stuff on the back of your thighs. So overall, you would end up with something like 56, or, you know, some people have got 56 or more chips, you know, 64, 128 chips all over their body. And that's, it just shows you how hard it is to then get rid of this technology, because it's like sometimes put in with laser surgery very quickly. There's stuff that also self-assembles and self-replicates. And at the end of the day, they have these fancy ways of doing microsurgery, but when you want to get them out, it's normal surgery. So you just have to cut yourself up completely and end up utterly covered in scars, you know, because these people just grab you off the street and do that. So anyway, that's the story on the chipping and the sex trafficking done by the intelligence agencies. And what they do is they grab women and they rape them. It is a form of rape. It is mind rape because they try to influence you. They use the ear implants, which are very, very small ear microphones, okay? That's why you can hear voices in such high def, because it's like the microphone in your mobile phone in your ear. You know, instead of holding your mobile phone here with mobile phone reception, you've got a little chip unit and the microphone together inside your ear, so it can be quieter because it's inside your ear. But it also has mobile phone reception, okay? And then, just like you can hold the mobile phone here and hear people talk, when it's implanted with a little receiver device, you can just hear it just the same. It's high definition. It's like somebody speaking in your ear. But what this seems to be is an actual chip implant in your ear, okay? So I think a lot of the voice to scar, there's something like the Fry effect, the microwave hearing. Now when you're really, whether you are on the top of the mountain or, you know, inside a flat and something, I don't, and also when you're walking and the density of material around you keeps changing. As a physicist, I find it unlikely that they're using direct microwave beams. I think you simply just have a little receiver with a microphone in your ear, and that's why you can hear it high def wherever you are. Just as much as wherever you've got mobile phone reception, you can hear this. And because these are military frequencies, you know, the military trying to cover the entire globe before everything else. So you might not have mobile phone reception because that's done by, say, Orange, a company, or BT, but you might have military reception in your military mobile phone network. Okay, so I think this is how it works. So anyway, that's enough. This video is long enough. That was me trying to demonstrate the chips and how to measure them. I hope this helps, and you know, please help me fight this, because I am being raped and other women are being raped. So the chips in your genital area are used directly for rape and also for mutilation, and here as well. So you know, I need help with financial help to run the court case. I need also protection, you know, so police assistance. Actually, if there are any non-corrupt police officers in the world left, please do help us victims, because these chips are now being implanted in series. So young children, you know, they just implant them with vaccines and, you know, through various other means. And the idea is to just have everybody chipped and implanted, you know, by whatever, 2020 or 2025. Okay, so that's the reality, people. And also I'm being degraded. You know, people are being given breast cancer, and I'm just trying my best. So please support me financially, support me with your actual, you know, campaigning. And if you're an intelligence agent or a police officer, please, if you've got any sort of sense of reality left and you're still doing your job as you're meant to, please help us victims, because we can't do this on our own. We're fighting against a military takeover of our societies that is literally just, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how much you can give to the world and how qualified you are. If some dirty old, you know, git just wants to knock one off, then your body will be shredded for his masturbation pleasure. That's the reality. Okay, and it will be done by MI5. They will be executing it because only they can do it. MI5, NDB, BND, and their sprawling, shedded network of corrupt, unregulated criminals who they have trained. Okay, so that's the reality. So please help us. Please help us, and I can prove to you that the intelligence agencies are involved, because these horrific things, if I can figure this out, you know, they can figure it out with their means and solve these crimes by midday, but they don't. They let all victims hang because they are the criminals. So please, please, please help us stop James Bond. So more information at stop007.org. I'm Dr. Catherine Horton, and I am being mutilated currently by Swiss intelligence here in Zurich. It's the 17th of July, 2017. It's 8:30 p.m. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.